The night I realized I wasn't as alone as I thought. The clock on my dashboard read 2:17 a.m., and the road ahead of me was completely empty. I had been driving for hours through northern Michigan, trying to beat a winter storm and too stubborn to stop at a motel. The highway cut through dense forest, trees packed so tightly they swallowed the moonlight, and every mile marker felt farther apart than the last. I told myself the fear creeping up my spine was just exhaustion. My name is Emily Carter. I'm 31, recently divorced, and used to being on my own. Solitude had become my comfort after the noise of a broken marriage. That night, I welcomed the quiet. No radio, no phone calls, just the hum of tires against asphalt. That was why I noticed immediately when the sound changed. It wasn't a noise exactly. It was the absence of one. The hum vanished, as if my car had slipped into a pocket where sound couldn't survive. I lifted my foot from the gas instinctively. The headlights still cut through the dark, but the road ahead looked wrong, stretching too far, bending in ways it hadn't seconds earlier. I checked the mirrors, nothing behind me. Not a single set of headlights in either direction. Then I saw the sign. Welcome to Ridgeway Population, 312. I was certain there hadn't been an exit there before. I slowed, frowning, trying to remember passing any mention of Ridgeway on my GPS. My phone sat dark in the console, no signal for the past half hour. The road narrowed as it led me into town, the trees pulling back to reveal houses set far apart, all dark, all identical in shape. Every porch light was off, every window black. I should have turned around. I know that now. But the fuel gauge hovered dangerously low, and the idea of stopping somewhere, anywhere, felt safer than pushing forward into the unknown forest. I drove deeper into town, tires crunching softly on gravel roads that replaced asphalt without warning. At the center of Ridgeway stood a single gas station, its fluorescent lights buzzing weakly. Relief washed over me. I pulled in and shut off the engine, the sudden silence making my ears ring. As I stepped out of the car, I realized something unsettling. There were no sounds of life, no insects, no wind. Even my footsteps sounded muted, like I was walking on patty ground. The bell above the gas station door rang as I entered. The air inside smelled stale, old, like dust trapped for decades. A man stood behind the counter, tall and thin, his eyes fixed on me before I even spoke. He didn't smile. "You're out late," he said. "I'm just passing through," I replied, forcing calm into my voice. "Do you have a restroom?" His gaze flicked toward the back hallway, then returned to my face. "You shouldn't stay long," he said. "Women don't do well here at night." I laughed nervously, assuming it was a bad joke. "That's comforting." He didn't laugh. "I'm serious." Before I could respond, a door opened behind me. A woman entered, her movements stiff, her eyes unfocused. She walked past me without acknowledgement and stood beside the counter. The man placed a hand on her shoulder possessively. "She be staying," he said, almost gently. The woman didn't react. A chill crawled up my arms. "I just need gas," I said quickly. "You won't find any," he replied. "Not for leaving." I backed away slowly, heart pounding. The bell rang again as I stumbled outside and rushed to my car. My hands shook as I turned the key. The engine sputtered once, then died. The dashboard lights flickered and went dark. That was when the streetlights came on. Every light in Ridgeway illuminated at once, bathing the town in a sickly yellow glow. Doors opened along the street. People stepped outside their homes, moving in unison, their faces expressionless. Men, women, children. All of them turned their heads toward me at the same time. I tried my phone again. No signal. No emergency calls. Nothing. The gas station door opened, and the man stepped out, followed by the woman. He gestured toward the crowd. "They're curious," he said. "It's been a while since we had someone new." "I'm leaving," I said, my voice breaking. "No," he replied calmly. "You're staying." The crowd began to move toward me. Slowly. No running, no shouting. Just steady footsteps, closing the distance. I locked myself in the car, pressing the lock button over and over, even though it was already engaged. Hands pressed against the windows, faces appearing inches from mine. They weren't angry. They were expectant. A woman leaned close to the glass, her breath fogging it. Her lips moved silently. "Help me!" I screamed and slammed my foot on the gas. The engine roared back to life suddenly, violently. The car lurched forward, knocking people aside like mannequins. I didn't stop to see if they were hurt. I sped down the road, ignoring the way the town seemed to stretch, the turns repeating, the same houses appearing again and again. Finally, the trees closed in around me and the road straightened. The sign for Ridgeway appeared in my rearview mirror, now reading, "Thank you for visiting. I didn't stop driving until dawn." When I checked my GPS later, Ridgeway wasn't there. No records, no maps, no mention online. But sometimes, late at night, when I'm driving alone and the road goes too quiet, my radio crackles to life on its own. And a familiar voice whispers, "Women don't do well here at night." The first thing I noticed when the night went quiet was how loud my own breathing sounded. It was just after 1 a.m., the hour when the world feels abandoned, and I was lying awake in my bed, staring at the ceiling. With a sudden certainty that something in my house had changed, nothing had moved. No sound had announced itself. Yet my body reacted before my mind could catch up, skin tightening, heart speeding up, the instinctive fear that comes when you realize you are no longer alone. I lived by myself in a small rental house on the edge of a wooded area in rural Pennsylvania, the kind of place people choose because it's cheap, quiet, and far from other people. I had always liked the isolation. That night, it felt like a mistake. The silence outside was too perfect, as if the woods had gone still to listen. Even the usual nighttime sounds were gone, leaving behind a pressure that made my ears ring. My name is Rachel. I'm 28 and I work from home, so being awake late isn't unusual for me. Fear was. I reached for my phone on the nightstand, letting the screen light up the darkness, half expecting to see a missed call or alert that could explain the tension in my chest. There was nothing. The home security app showed all doors locked and windows closed. I told myself I was imagining things, that anxiety does this sometimes, inventing danger where there is none. I turned the phone face down and closed my eyes, trying to breathe slowly. That was when I heard it, so faint I almost convinced myself it wasn't real. A soft dragging sound, like fabric brushing against the floor. It came from the hallway outside my bedroom. My eyes snapped open, fixed on the open doorway. I never sleep with my bedroom door open. Never. I held my breath and listened. The sound came again, closer this time. Not footsteps, no rhythm. Just slow movement, deliberate and careful, as if whatever was out there knew exactly how quiet it needed to be. I whispered hello, hating the way my voice shook. The sound stopped immediately. The silence that followed felt heavier than anything I had heard. I sat up in bed, staring into the darkness of the hallway. The layout of my house replayed in my head. The living room, the kitchen, the small laundry area. the bathroom. No hiding places, no closets big enough for someone to stand in unseen. That realization didn't comfort me, it terrified me. Because if something was there, I should have been able to see it. My phone buzzed suddenly, the vibration loud in the silence. I flinched so hard I almost dropped it. A message glowed on the screen, but there was no name, no number, no app icon. Just text. Are you sure you're alone? My hands went cold. I stared at the words, my mind racing through explanations that didn't make sense. I hadn't given my number to anyone new. My Wi-Fi was secure. This wasn't a prank. My fingers trembled as I typed back, asking who it was. The message showed as delivered. There was no reply. Then my bedroom door began to move. It didn't swing open. It didn't slam shut. It inched inward, slowly closing, the movement so careful it made my stomach twist. Something on the other side was trying not to be heard. Panic flooded through me. I jumped out of bed and slammed the door shut, locking it with shaking hands. The sound echoed through the house, loud and final. I pressed my back against the door, heart pounding, waiting for the handle to turn. It didn't. Instead, I heard breathing on the other side of the door. Slow, controlled, patient. Too calm. Too close. I covered my mouth with my hand to keep from screaming, tears blurring my vision. My phone vibrated again. Don't lock me out. That was the moment I knew this wasn't a person. No human waits like that. No human breathes so evenly while standing in the dark outside someone's bedroom. I backed away from the door, my legs weak, my thoughts scattered. I needed to get out. The window. I could climb out and run to the road. I moved toward the window, every step feeling too loud. As I pulled the curtain aside, my reflection stared back at me in the glass, pale and wide-eyed. Then I noticed something else reflected behind me. A shape in the corner of my room where nothing should have been, tall, wrong. Its head tilted at an angle that made my stomach churn, as if it were studying me. I spun around, heart in my throat. The corner was empty. A soft laugh drifted down from the ceiling. I screamed. I didn't care how loud it was anymore. I threw the window open and climbed out into the freezing night, my bare feet hitting the frost-covered ground. The woods loomed at the edge of the yard, black and endless, but I ran anyway, branches tearing at my arms, lungs burning as I pushed myself toward the road. Behind me, from inside the house, I heard my own voice calling my name, perfectly, every inflection right. It sounded scared. It sounded like me. I didn't look back. I ran until headlights appeared on the road, and I collapsed onto the asphalt, sobbing. A passing driver stopped and called the police. They searched my house thoroughly. They found no signs of forced entry, no broken locks, no footprints, no evidence that anyone or anything had been there. They told me it was stress, a night terror, a panic episode. I moved out the next day. But sometimes late at night, when everything goes quiet again and the world feels like it's holding its breath, my phone lights up by itself. There's never a number, never a name. Only a message. You left me alone. The first night I realized someone was watching me. The only proof I had was my own reflection staring back from the dark window. I live alone in a small apartment complex on the edge of Phoenix, the kind of place people forget exists unless they're forced to stop there. After a double shift at the hospital, I came home exhausted, dropped my bag by the door, and locked it out of habit, turning the deadbolt twice. My name is Rachel Monroe. I'm 29 and I work nights, which means being awake when the world feels abandoned has always been normal for me. That night felt different from the moment I stepped inside. The apartment was too quiet, not peaceful quiet, but heavy, as if the air itself was holding its breath. I told myself I was imagining things, kicked off my shoes, and went straight to the kitchen for water. That's when I noticed the light in the hallway was on. I never leave it on. I stood there, glass in hand, listening. No footsteps. No movement. Just that same oppressive silence pressing against my ears. I walked down the hallway slowly, every sense alert, and peeked into the bathroom. Empty. Bedroom door closed, exactly how I'd left it. I exhaled, embarrassed by my own nerves, and turned the hallway light off. As I headed to my bedroom, I caught a glimpse of myself reflected in the window. For a split second, I thought there was someone standing behind me. I spun around. Nothing. I laughed it off, changed into pajamas, and climbed into bed with my phone, scrolling mindlessly until my eyes burned. At 1:30 a.m., I turned the lamp off and let darkness settle over the room. That's when I heard it. A soft sound, barely audible, like fabric brushing against a wall. I froze. The sound came again, closer this time, from inside my apartment. My heart hammered so loudly I was sure whoever was there could hear it. I reached for my phone, turned on the flashlight, and swept the beam across the room. Nothing moved. Shadows stayed still. I lay there, convincing myself it was pipes, the building settling, anything but footsteps. Then I heard breathing. Not mine. It was slow, deliberate, coming from the corner of the room near the closet. The beam of my phone trembled as I aimed it there. The closet door was open a few inches. I hadn't opened it. I whispered, "Hello?" hating how small my voice sounded. The breathing stopped. Silence returned, thicker than before. I sat up, every instinct screaming to run, but my legs refused to move. Seconds stretched into minutes. Just as I began to think I'd imagined everything, the closet door creaked open another inch. And then I saw the eye. It stared at me through the crack, unblinking, reflecting the white light of my phone. I screamed and scrambled backward, nearly falling off the bed. The door burst open fully, slamming against the wall. The closet was empty. I didn't sleep that night. I turned every light on and sat against the wall until sunrise, telling myself stress had finally caught up with me. The next day, I called in sick and searched the apartment top to bottom. No signs of forced entry. No hiding places big enough for a person. Everything looked exactly the same. That should have been the end of it. The second night, the knocking started. 3 slow knocks on my front door at exactly 2:00 a.m. I held my breath, staring at the door from my couch, phone clutched in my hand. No one knocked again. I didn't answer. I didn't move. After 10 minutes, I convinced myself it was a neighbor, maybe drunk, maybe confused. The third night, the knocks came from inside my apartment. They came from the bedroom wall behind my headboard. 3 knocks. Pause. 3 knocks again. I jumped out of bed and backed into the hallway, my mind racing. I grabbed a kitchen knife, hands slick with sweat, and pressed myself against the wall, listening. The knocks continued, methodical, patient, as if whoever or whatever was on the other side knew I was listening. I shouted that I called the police. The knocking stopped. When officers arrived, they found nothing, no signs of someone in the walls. No neighbors reporting noise. They suggested I stay with family for a few days. I lied and said I would. I didn't. On the 4th night, I heard whispering. It came through the vents, soft and intimate, like someone leaning close to my ear. I couldn't understand the words at first, just the rhythm of speech, the rise and fall of sentences meant for me alone. I covered my ears, But the sound didn't stop. Then the whispering said my name, Rachel, over and over. I ran outside barefoot, not even bothering to lock the door, and spent the night in my car. At dawn, I noticed something on my phone that made my blood run cold. I had dozens of photos in my gallery I hadn't taken. They were pictures of me, sleeping, showering, sitting on the couch, all taken from inside my apartment. The timestamps were between midnight and 4 a.m. I moved out that same day. Left everything behind. Furniture, clothes, memories. I stayed with a friend across town and tried to convince myself it was over. 2 weeks later, alone in her guest room, I woke to the sound of breathing. Slow, familiar, coming from the closet. And that's when I understood the truth. Whatever had been watching me didn't live in that apartment. It followed women who were alone at night. The night I learned how dangerous silence could be. Fireworks were exploding somewhere far away, and everyone else was celebrating except me. My name is Madeline Price, and I was alone in a rented house outside a dying town in rural Pennsylvania, the kind of place people pass through without stopping unless they have no other choice. I had driven there after my car broke down during a snowstorm on New Year's Eve, and the only place available was an old two-story house listed online as quiet, perfect for reflection. I didn't need reflection. I needed sleep. From the moment I stepped inside, the house felt wrong. Not abandoned, not dirty, just alert. The floorboards creaked beneath my boots as if reacting to my weight, learning it. I locked the door behind me and checked every room, every window, every dark corner, telling myself fear came from exhaustion. Outside, the town was silent. No traffic, no music, no fireworks, just wind scraping against the house like fingernails. I went upstairs and chose the smallest bedroom, thinking it would feel safer. I left the lamp on and lay fully dressed on top of the covers, phone charging beside me. At 11:58 p.m., my phone buzzed with messages from friends counting down to midnight. I typed a quick reply, forced a smile, and turned the screen face down. I didn't want noise. I didn't want reminders that I was alone. Midnight came and went without sound. No fireworks. No distant cheering. Just silence so deep it made my ears ring. That's when I heard footsteps downstairs. They weren't heavy. They weren't rushed. They moved slowly, confidently, like whoever was walking knew the layout of the house better than I did. I sat up, heart slamming against my ribs, listening as the steps crossed the living room, paused, then moved toward the staircase. I held my breath. The steps stopped at the bottom. 1 second passed, then another. The first stair creaked, then the second. I grabbed my phone and turned on the flashlight, pointing it at the bedroom door. The light shook in my hands. The footsteps climbed steadily, one step at a time, until they reached the hallway outside my room. I could see the shadow under the door shift, stretch, then stop directly in front of me. Someone knocked. 3 slow taps. I didn't answer. I couldn't. My mouth refused to open. A voice spoke softly through the door. "Madeline, it's freezing out there." My blood went cold. I hadn't told anyone my name. The doorknob turned slowly, testing the lock. When it didn't open, the shadow leaned closer, blocking the light completely. I backed away until my legs hit the bed, tears blurring my vision. The voice sighed, disappointed. "We don't like shouting," it said calmly. "It attracts attention." The footsteps retreated, moving back down the stairs at the same unhurried pace. I waited, shaking, until I heard the front door open and close. Only then did I move. I locked myself in the bathroom and stayed there until morning, sitting in the bathtub with my phone clutched to my chest. At dawn, the town looked normal. Too normal. I packed quickly, planning to leave as soon as the roads cleared. When I stepped outside, I noticed footprints in the snow leading from the front door to the road. They stopped halfway. Like whoever had made them simply vanished. I asked a gas station clerk about the house. His smile faded when I gave the address. He told me no one had lived there permanently in years. People rented it sometimes. Most didn't stay long. When I asked why, he just said, "Some places don't like being empty. They borrow people." I left as soon as my car was repaired and didn't look back. I told myself it was over. That fear had created the memory. That loneliness had invented the voice. 2 weeks later, back in my apartment in Chicago, I woke up at exactly midnight. No reason, no sound. Just a feeling. I looked toward my bedroom door and saw a familiar shadow stretch beneath it. 3 slow knocks followed, gentle and patient. A voice whispered from the hallway, "Happy New Year, Madeline." You didn't say goodbye. The doorknob began to turn.